bitch. Fuck you.
What Larry was able to do on and off the court, it defied description, and it was very much like being on tour with the Grateful Dead, in that you never knew what was going to happen. You knew it was going to be fun. You knew it was going to be great. You knew it was going to be dynamic. You knew it was going to be explosive. But you could never say, that's what's going to happen.
I think his first 8 or 10 points were left-handed. And at that point, McHale was still coming off the bench. And so Larry scores his 6th point on some kind of left-handed shot.
Bird against Kersey. Oh, what a basketball player that is.
And McHale goes, hey, Jerome, wait till he starts shooting right-handed.
James for Bird, another three-point try.
Well, left hand is one thing, but when the game got close, I had to go back to the right one. I think it went right down the wire, and we might have won by 1 point.
Beat you right there. You got to keep them under control. They don't.
I went to shake his hand. He wouldn't shake my hand. And I remember saying to myself, well, maybe he's just getting into the game. And I remember the first play of the game, he said, you don't even belong in this league, Holmes. And he shoots a three. I'm like, I wasn't mad he made the three. I said, did he just call me Holmes? You know? But I remember after the first time, I made a great play against him. I remember him saying, he said, you got some toughness, man. I like you. But he said, I'm still getting 40 tonight. He got about 38, so he kind of proved his point. But I mean, I knew he was a super player before I came into the NBA, but when I had a chance to play against Larry Bird, and I can count on one hand the type of guys like him that you had to be totally focused in on. If you didn't, he would embarrass you.
Patterned my game, who I wanted to be like, who I wanted to play like after Larry Bird, so I was torn. So I love them both, and to have a chance to play against Larry early on in my career and then kind of be under his leadership when he took over as head coach, it was a thrill for me because that was, one of the players that, I really idolized and patterned my game after.
One of the greatest players that ever played this game. A kid from French Lick, Boston, and one of the few guys that ever be in a three-point contest and shoot with a warm-up shirt on. And but just as he played until he couldn't play no more. Obviously, we know that he just played till he literally couldn't play the game no more. He gave everything he had, and for young guys that don't know him, they think of Larry Bird as a jump shooter, but he was so much more than that. He was a passer. He averaged double-digit rebounds. He defended, he took charges, and he's a straight-up complete basketball player. And me as a small forward, Scottie, Bird, Doc, George Gervin, are guys that I kind of looked up to being a small forward, and they kind of set the precedence of what it is to, go out there as a professional and give it all. So, I've always been a big fan of Larry Bird, and, if I'm linked with any other greats, especially like him, it's pretty cool.
Magic, James Worthy, Kurt Rambis, Kareem Abdul, all the Laker greats, I would always sit down and just ask them questions about certain games that I studied growing up. What actually happened there? What did you feel there? Why? Bird tough to defend. Why? Because you look slow as shit to me. So I'm missing something. So tell me what I'm missing. You know what I mean?
Kind of complimented Larry in the past. Is that kind of a cool thing?
Hell yeah. Somebody texted me after the game and showed me a screenshot, and I was giddy like a little kid. I mean, grew up watching Larry Bird, and, well, not really, he's older, but you grew up kind of knowing the legend of Larry Legend, and, sort of to be amongst the greats, that's all you really want to do. That's a great accomplishment, but I keep going. Just a love for the game and love for practice and love for shooting. I think that we're similar in those areas, but he allowed players like myself to kind of dream big and think big at that position and to do things that traditional small forwards, I guess, or big men weren't doing, and he's one of the first guys you've seen.
And he would tell you to play and catch it over there and shoot it.
Larry Bird, he was not a nice guy.
He talked to everybody. He was talking trash all the time, man. But fun.
and they called a timeout, and he turned around and looked at me and said, "I'm gonna score right here on you."
And he came back out and hit about 10 in a row on me, and the last one was left-handed, and he asked me if my mother was watching.
He was calling shots off the glass, who's next, where you want this one from, and he just made one after another. When he got to about the 55th point, you knew it was something special. Even as a player, and that usually doesn't happen, but we were down so much at the time, you had time to realize the game.
We're on the free throw line, and he's like, he literally says, left side over across the three, and you're listening to him. That's a tough feeling.
Yeah, that was the one game that I think he tortured Dominique. He saw Dominique as up-and-coming player, and he just tortured him mentally that game. He tortured all of them.
I mean, it was mind-blowing.
I think Bird went by the bench one time, too.
He fell in the bench.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, and he called that one. That was the one where he fell in it. He literally said, off the glass into the trainer. And, yeah, and so it was a bad night.
It's going to be a three, and it's going to be awful these. And then he said, who wants it? And I think Ricky Brown, I'm not for sure who it was, ran out after him. And he shot this high rainbow. It goes in. Ricky bumps into him and accidentally knocks him on our trainer's lap. So it was exactly what he said.
Antoine Carr and Cliff Levingston got fined by Fratello, I think.
And Eddie Johnson for celebrating.
Celebrating Bird.
Yeah, it was the best film session. Every time when I see Mike, we still laugh.
God,
it was
so
it was the greatest film session ever, because back then you didn't have, you watched the real game and just went, with a video, and Mike rewound the celebration 20 times. He just kept, not the shot, he just kept rewinding it, showing the guys, you remember they're giving each other high five.
And then somebody falls off the bench.
Yeah,
too.
that was Eddie Johnson.
Yeah.
Eddie Johnson falls off the bench in laughter.
I mean, everybody was entertained by this. Even
That's one
the guys on the guys on the Atlanta
They
bench.
got fined for that, I heard.
Yeah. Watch the reactions on the Atlanta bench. You see Scottie Hastings
up there
with them.
laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you get
now watch Cliff Levingston over here. I think this is Cliff.
And our film session was 20 minutes of that.
At the three-point competition, walking in the locker room, who's playing? Did you really say that? Who's playing for second?
Yeah, I did. I was so bad.
Yeah, when you walked in and asked who was going to get second place in the three-point contest, when you walked in there, what were you thinking when you made that announcement to the room? Just messing with all those guys like you always did.
Yeah,
everybody?
I didn't. I had no clue. I never really practiced. Me and Danny used to shoot some before we went out there. Everybody's sitting there. Everybody's real quiet. You really didn't. You knew the guys, but you never were around them.
Three-point contest at the All-Star break. And Larry walks in and says, I hope all you guys in here are thinking about second place because I'm winning this. Excuse me?